Welcome to the Council of Moms. The Council of Moms began organically generations ago as women would wander out of their front porch looking for human contact and the answers to those unanswerable mothering questions. And, looked around in the neighborhood and said, is it just me? What should I do? Well, the Council of Moms has evolved since then. And today, for the Lisa Show, we love to dive in to those topics where we're like, is it just me? How am I supposed to do this? What do you do? And so I've collected a group of women that have different life experiences, different parenting journeys, and we're going to talk about these interesting topics, these pressing topics that, sit on our minds as we drift off to sleep, or don't. And that we are, awake and shocked in the morning, still thinking about these issues. That's what the Council of Moms is all about. What's your best hack, mothering hack, something that you learned that you're like, oh, this is awesome, big or small?
I'm Amy Hackworth. I'm a mom of 3, a life coach, and a writer. So that question riddled me with self-doubt. I don't have one. So that was a hard beginning. What our kids have broken, and that came right to mind.
Yeah, random
like
stuff
every
your
screen,
kids have broken.
Every screen in our home has been broken, maybe by one particular child, who I won't mention specifically. Ruined paintbrush, lost tools. The list goes on and on. Anyway, that I have lots of those, but not a parenting hack. I'm here to learn.
Yeah, I love it. Jeanette Bennett, I have 5 kids in all stages of life. So my oldest 2 are married and done with college and living on their own. And I'm going to be a grandma next year. So that's exciting.
So lucky.
Thank you.
And I'm very jealous.
I am excited. Everybody says it's amazing. So I'm ready to try that out. A son on a mission, a daughter heading to college, and then I have a 6th grader. So they're all spread out. I love it. And I've loved every stage. It's super fun. But my life hack is, because it drives me nuts when they're like, we have nothing to eat. So my life hack is take them grocery shopping. And I'm like, what would you eat? So that when they're in the pantry going, Mom, there's nothing. I'm like, well, you picked out these fruit snacks. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. So
Totally.
Take them with you.
I love it. That's awesome.
My name is Carrie Ann Rhodes, and I have 2 kids still in elementary school. I'm an older mom, and my life hack, I'm still proud of this moment, was leaving Costco, and the receipt checker would often do a smiley face or a balloon, and if they didn't, it could sometimes cause problems. Mm-hmm. And one time when they just got the line down, I said, oh, look, you got a snake. And it changed everything. There were no more tantrums and sadness leaving Costco ever again.
I love it.
Click on your feet.
You've got a future in PR, I think.
Yeah,
Spin that story.
Spin it.
Yeah, spin that story.
Right? It's smoke and mirrors sometimes mothering.
Absolutely. All the time.
For our discussion, I reached out to our listeners. I really love the community that the Council of Moms has created for the Lisa Show. So we asked you, what kind of questions do you want the Council of Moms to answer? And I got a lot of answers, a lot of questions. And it's really fun. And this question is a combination of several questions. So how do you change your parenting to parent adult kids? What has helped that transition? Alongside of that is how do you know what boundaries to have with your adult kids? Now, I realize that we're all in different perspectives. And Carrie Ann, I was particularly thinking about you because we've all experienced that your kids are younger, but you have such great experience because you, as an aunt, as a friend, you've observed things. There's blind spots that you have as a mother. You need a different kind of perspective. And you've also experienced this yourself. So I really do feel like we're all you're just at the beginning of this transition. Yeah. You have really been in it. I've really been in it. Mm-hmm. I've made a ton of mistakes. So I have a lot of things to share. No.
I'm dreading it. So
I really do think the variety of this group can help. It's a very serious question because there's so much in that question, with boundaries with adult kids, or how is that transition? How do you know what to do? There's so many little different personal stories behind these questions. So
yeah, I was just this morning giving my college son some unsolicited advice.
How did that go?
Well, here's what I have learned. I did say, hey, I want to tell you something. So now I give it a little introduction.
Yeah.
You know, like, and are you open to it? What do you think? You know, so still unsolicited, but I a little bit ask for permission. And he's a good sport, so he says yes, you know. And then I have learned to lay off, the urgency that I feel, right? How important I think what I have to say is, and I've learned to offer it, right? Now I can say, hey, so here's a couple things you might want to think about, you know, just some things to consider. And I think before I was a little more, you know, I felt the import of what I had to say, and it was really important to me that they also felt
But
that,
don't you
right?
still feel like it's very important, like deep in your soul?
Oh, yeah, I do. I feel
so
like,
it's about not what you say, but how you're presenting it.
Yeah, how I'm presenting it. But I also am in the process of learning to let go and say, oh, their path turns out is going to look different than I thought it was. Turns out it's really their life. Ooh, not
Turns out they want different things than I want for them.
I'm surprised at what a transition that was for me. That seems like such an obvious thing. Of course it's their life, but my expectations, you know, and ideas have been pretty deeply rooted.
Don't you think that it's okay, though, to take a second as moms and not in front of our kids, and this is not our kids' responsibility, but just to sort of mourn and really feel all of the good things that we wanted for them that they don't want? Right. Because I used to sort of push it away like, oh, I didn't really want that for them. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then it would like kind of fester. And then I'd be like, no, I wanted these good things that they're never going to have or that they didn't choose.
Yeah. That deserves a
that's
moment.
okay. Yeah. That's okay. I'm not going to put that on them, but like I have had to process that with friends. I don't know. Have you had to do that?
I don't think it's shameful either for parents to have expectations in their family growing up.
Like it feels wrong.
I think we're in this like parenting atmosphere where a little bit it's like, oh, let them do and let them be, and like so many of those things are great. Like so many of those things maybe we wanted and we've definitely incorporated and whatnot. But we all have different values and things that are important. I mean, such as like education or developing interests, and like that's okay. And I don't think it's we need to feel shameful about having expectations of like, we hope that you will do this. And they're very broad. We can't get specific, right? Like Olympic athletes. That's very specific.
I know what you mean.
Diver, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I've enjoyed doing this. I wish that you liked this.
But we all have expectations of, I mean, because we all want them to stay out of prison, right? Like
Exactly.
It's all on a continuum. You know, you want like them to have a good life and to, you know, not be on the front page for the wrong reasons and all of that. Yeah. So it's like, at what point are our expectations unreasonable or more about us or whatever? One thing that
that one hurts.
Yeah.
When you're like,
but I wanted to live through you. I didn't play the violin,
And
but
you
I want you to. You know, something I've given up. Yeah. But one thing that surprised me about adult kids is they want and need praise as much or more as our little kids. Wow. I think they still want to know that we think they're awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And
especially their parents. They want their parents to be like, you're so rad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That dates me.
And I have two in-law kids, and they love it too when I praise them either like privately or in a post or something. You know, I think we all crave that. We're all little kids at heart that just, do you approve of me? You know?
I think that's so important to remember. I the whole expectation thing. This is what I thought. This is what I thought you were going to do, or this is what I thought our family would look like, or whatever. No one gets that. Well, maybe some people do. I don't know. When I'm on social media, I'm like, some people do get that what they want. That's interesting. I wonder what that's like for them.
Smoke and mirrors, right?
Yeah, mute. No, just kidding. Not kidding. But I do think that embracing that reality has helped me of being like, what am I worried about? Like, if they're healthy and happy, I mean, there are legitimate reasons to be upset about their path, you know, and that's a heartbreaking thing too. And maybe we can go there too of like when you do worry, when your adult kids are not doing well, when that transition is not going well, when they are addicted to drugs, when they are not able to get out of bed, like serious issues. That a lot of parents have to deal with that and feel lonely in it because it's such a time of transition and, first day of college or a new job or whatever. And if your kids are not progressing in a standard expected way with good things, it can be very isolating and lonely as a parent.
And there are those times when they don't deserve praise, right? Like there's a moment of like, you need help. You've lost 5 jobs in a row or whatever.
Navigated that.
But I think what they always want to know is we love them. So, for sure. So even if you can't praise them in the moment, express love for them unconditionally, non-transactional. I love you. Yeah. That is never going to change. Yeah. And then just finding them kind of intriguing. I have a daughter who doesn't wear shoes. She's very much a hippie. We're very different, very different. But I have to be like, I love how you're like at one with the earth. I love it. Yes. I think that's amazing. Yeah. Teach me more. Teach me some yoga moves or whatever. And so I try to find something to be curious about. Even if I don't understand it, just tweaking it slightly, like a little curious,
That's so cool. Because I think our first inclination is not to be curious or not to be engaged. It's sort of like, oh, you're gonna do that. Okay, right. I love it. Like, tell me more about it. Yeah. What a cool way to build relationship.
I never thought I'd find myself saying, oh, what a cute tattoo. It's things like that. Like I can't think things that in my generation would have been a little bit more like, huh? It's not. And like, it's been difficult to like let go. Like I'm an old person who doesn't like things young people do sometimes. And
thank you for saying that. You hit a nerve with me because I just, like, here's the thing. You still have your own likes and dislikes as a mom because you're a person, right? And here's the thing, and I'll go on record. I don't like tattoos. And I have a child who loves them.
I like well done tattoos.
Well, and here's the thing, and
it's the homemade
and
ones.
For them, it's an artistic expression. Yeah, it's part of their career and journey and stuff. Nothing that I ever imagined.
Yeah,
nothing that, and at the end of the day, I have had to come to terms with like, so what?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Like,
so what?
What does that mean? It's just something that I, again, didn't grow up with, wasn't surrounded with. It's totally different and the thing. And to be curious about it has been better. And I just look and I'm like, well, then what does it mean? They're doing really great in their career. They're happy. They've got a great relation. Like, there's so much to, why are you looking at that? And it's grown on me, I have to tell you.
But speaking of age, like I've been thinking about how maybe when I was a teenager, parents up in arms like, oh my gosh, my kid's got pink hair, right? Or something like that.
Piercing.
Or a piercing.
It was a piercing in our day.
Yeah. So I've had to think about that. Like, okay, this is how that generation felt about pink hair, is how I feel right now about some piercings and tattoos and these, like, okay, this is the moment that every parent has. In fact, I re-listened to, oh gosh, I'm blanking. It's Cheaper by the Dozen, the book a few years ago. And the dad is horrified by his daughter's silk stockings in the 1920s, right? And I'm like, oh, every generation of parents has had something to be horrified about.
Freak out about long hair or
I'm like,
makeup.
How far will it go?
This time it's reasonable. Our concerns are reasonable.
And it's kind of like the question too of like, it's like, okay, I never thought about this, but how far does it go? Where's the boundary? Like, and I think that's it. Like, so I'm curious as to when do you say, like, I don't like this. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Where's the edge?
Right now, it's whatever's lawful. Like the good point about
the bar there.
Keeping out of jail. Like, let's just stay within the law right now. That's where my boundary is. Yeah.
Except with adult children, like, do we even? I mean, I guess we can say the law is important to us, right? But do we get to say, nope, don't do that. You can't do that.
You don't get to say that. One thing I've learned the hard way is I've told my kids, from younger and older, I'll be like, hey, this is totally your decision. Yeah. Here's some things to think about. And then they make a decision. And then, from sad experience, I've been like, actually, no, I want you to do, and then it's like, wait, you said it was my decision. I mean, and this happens with simple things, even like with my daughter, I'm like, hey, do you want to go to the airport to pick up your sister? It's up to you. I don't want to go. No, actually, I do want you to go. And she's like, what about the decision thing?
Wrong choice.
But I've had similar conversations with my older kids where I'm like, completely up to you.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself, to let them make the decision. And I also think natural consequences are a parenting's best friend. We're afraid of them.
Yes.
But honestly, I feel like if they do run into the law, let's let natural consequences play out.
We've had some experiences with that. One thing that I have learned with that kind of like boundary thing is sometimes I always thought, why am I more upset and struggling with this question or issue of what they should do more than they are?
Oh, wow.
And that has been a good sort of test for me to kind of back off and go, this is their life. It's not my life. Like, how arrogant is it that I think that they're my little robots, you know? And it's been a hard lesson for me. But I will say that, like, when we all get together and my adult kids are home, I mean, they are all so different. And it's so fun. Yeah. And if I had gotten my way, it wouldn't look like that.
What would they have looked
like? What do I know?
Yeah.
There is like a little bit of a smack of humility in that of like, no, who's to say that this isn't what my expectation should have been?
Yeah.
And honestly, it's kind of freeing to be like,
oh yeah,
I don't have to run your life. Yeah. That's amazing. If we twist it back to the spin it thing, the PR skills that you use as a mom, like, this is amazing. You get to run your life. I just get to sit over here, you know? Yeah. Because when we do feel like, ooh, you shouldn't have dropped out of college. Ooh, shouldn't have gotten fired. Yeah. That's so angsty, to feel like we can actually fix it when we can't. So let's just enjoy the ride a little more.
And you don't have to. Like, I feel like so many adults with older people, it's a constant work of like letting go, of like, I've got to let go. And I feel like people who are the most kind of miserable and stressed are the ones who can't let it go, or who like internalize the guilt of what they're doing, or can't let go of, well, you should have done this. I mean, I think I'm anticipating practicing this so that I can be peaceful in my,
For sure.
more adult years.
Well, and so they won't unintentionally get the wrong message, that you don't trust them, that you don't think that they're smart enough or wise enough to figure this out, that they, that you, and showing that trust. And for me, the hardest thing has just been shutting my mouth and just saying, I know that seems like a really hard decision. I know you're going to make the right choice. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
And what's so great about that is that then I think they'll continue to talk to you, right? I think when we offer too much advice, or when we're too pushy or too disappointed, they don't want to come and talk to us anymore. No. So when you show that trust in them, then they're open. They know that they can rely on you.
They don't want to hear, I told you so. Yeah, so if we never tell them so, they, think
that you
they don't have to hold it against us.
Yeah. So there's this great parable, and this is from a really wise friend of mine, about good or bad, hard to say. And I don't remember all the details, but it's like the farmer's horse dies, and the villagers come and say, "Oh, that's terrible, your horse is dead." And he says, "Well, good or bad, hard to say," right? And then because his horse is dead, something else happens that all the villagers say, "Oh, you're so lucky that happened." And he's like, "Well, good or bad, hard to say." And it goes on and on. His breaks his leg, and then he can't be called up to the army. And that seems like, then that's a relief. Oh, good or bad, hard to say. And that's been so helpful. And this friend has the situations you were mentioning earlier, kids in prison, kids addicted to drugs, alcoholics, some really tough situations. And she is so great about still trusting in the process, even with her adult kids, some of them well into their 20s, early 30s, who are struggling. Good or bad, hard to say. Maybe jail is exactly what they needed to progress on their path in life. And I just admire that so much, that we just don't know where our kids will end up or what will happen.
I have a friend living that right now whose son, OD, didn't end up passing away, but caused some major problems with his body. And she said, our relationship has never been better. Wow. Because all of a sudden he does want her more in his life, and they're healing together. And she's like, I never would have asked for this, but good or bad, hard to say. It's actually had a lot of good. Yeah. So if we look for that and spin it that way, I love that phrase. That's good.
It's great.
And isn't it so great that we can share those stories with each other? I feel like in those moments, our tendency, because it's our fear, our egos, that we want to sort of hide and retreat, keep it secret. But when we share it with our friends and we get the support we need and don't look for that for our kids, which is inappropriate, I don't think, then we can show up better for our kids because we've had the time to like go through the, if my kid OD'd and somebody said, oh, maybe it's for the better. Like it not in that moment. Yeah. But
That's hard.
do you know what I mean? You're like,
Timing is everything.
Okay.
well, I just think about like the stresses that my family has been in. And when people are like, oh, I'm sure this will be a big blessing. And you're just like,
Thank you.
I don't know, like in that moment, but being present there, I think that is like what moms are good at. Like, what do you need? I'm in. Like, put me in, coach. But we need that kind of support, I think, from other women.
And we can only do it if we open up.
Yeah.
I think when we feel ashamed about something our kids are doing, we make it about us, which is sort of what you said earlier, right? Then it's about us. Oh, I'm a bad mom because my kid did these things. Oh, that's so embarrassing. Yeah, I didn't teach them. With, when we can separate our kids from ourselves, then it doesn't make us.
And I think that's healthy
anything
too.
But a mom who cares, right? Yeah.
I have this joke with my friend that I've known since my friend Wendy since I've known since I was 2 years old, and she's got a lot of stresses with her kids, and we we vent to each other, right? Because we've known each other through all the stages of our lives, and we're like, who thought that two innocent girls from Lincoln, Nebraska would have to deal with all, like, why is everything so hard? Or, we like to turn it up for each other or whatever. And we have this joke that we're like, well, now we're focusing on our careers. We gave everything to our children, but now it's hard. We'll just focus on our careers. And we use it sort of as a joke, but I do think that is a part of why this transition of parenting from teenagers to adults is so hard, because they need you less. Because it's not waking up and thinking, like when they're a toddler, okay, what are they going to eat? What are they going to wear? Like we go from making all their decisions to them to slowly letting them make their decisions to the point where we're not making any of their decisions for them.
And if you say it, they'll do the opposite.
And, and you sort of have to sit on your hands and bite your tongue and not. But that is a hard trend. That's hard. And I just want to acknowledge that. But to say that joke is kind of like, but it is time to do something else. I've seen other women who know every little detail about their adult children and are intimately involved in talking on the phone for, hours and hours. And I mean, a little bit I'm jealous, but also a lot of it, I'm like, oh, that's also not how it's supposed to be.
Right.
What's helped you with that?
I think having a sense of self all along. I mean, it's hard as a young mom to realize that should be a priority because it feels so much like you're doing the right thing by being all in, and that's super good. But I think it ends up being really hard if you haven't had a sense of self that's separate, a little hobby or reading, writing, walking, serving, working, for some, and that's kind of what I did. But I think that everybody gets to figure it out, but you do need to be a person that's not just Sarah's mom. Yeah. I think that will help in the transition.
I think that illusion of control over our kids' lives is founded in those early years when really we are in charge of so much for them. So that's been a big realization for me to realize that's where it came from. There was a time when I really did have to make all the decisions for them. And then releasing that really is hard. I agree with Jeanette, having something that is a sense of self that's independent. And it is hard to establish and almost doesn't. I think culturally, sometimes it feels selfish early on when your kids are little. Well, like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be all in.
I'm supposed to give up everything for them.
Yeah. And then it turns out to not be good for them or for you.
Yeah. And then you're like, but wait a second.
I was doing the right thing.
Wait a second.
I have a friend who has a daughter going through a divorce. So there's a divorce, there's grandkids, there's a lot of going on. And she said to me the other day, you know what? I love everyone in this story. Oh. And the way she said it, of like, it's a story, she sees them as characters in a way, and she's going to lose a son-in-law. It's complex, right? She's like, I love everyone in the story. That reframed it a little bit for me. Like, we are watching stories unfold, and these are characters, and all good stories have a lot of conflict and surprises.
That's such an interesting way to put it, too, because it reminds me of my mom says the same thing, like, you're always a mom. And if one of her kids isn't doing, not one of her kids, isn't doing something that she necessarily likes or agrees with or would choose, she would just say, well, I just always know it's not the end of the story. Mm-hmm. Life is long, and that it's just, it'll,
Keep reading.
Okay. Now, there's something about boundaries in this question.
Yeah.
Right? And I'd like some collective wisdom about that. What do you think about, what do we do about boundaries for our adult kids?
Well, okay, I don't know.
Okay, great.
But this is a great way to like sort of wrap up this conversation. I'd love everybody to be able just to say one thing about, what they've learned. It has been good and healthy for my adult children to not live with me. Mm-hmm. That has been a good boundary. When I have, because of the pandemic and family circumstances and things, that hasn't always been, the situation. Things didn't go according to plan. Spoiler. And but what I did learn is that this is good. It's good for them to live on their own and as part of our relationship as a mother and an adult child. That is one boundary that I have learned that is good. Again, not always possible in this economy and things like that, and family situations, but not knowing every little detail of every choice and how long they sleep and what they eat is great. Was helpful for that transition.
I love that.
I say lower all expectations to basically zero. So are you coming for dinner? I hesitate to even ask that, right? It's like it's always open. But sometimes in my early years of being an adult mom, and I would ask, sometimes that was perceived as pressure. Mm-hmm. Like, I want you. I'll be disappointed if the answer is no.
Yeah.
So I've learned to just be like, no expectations. Also, and I don't know if this is good or not, but like, I feel like I'm ready and allow them to take advantage of me. For example, like walking in when they want, eating whatever they want, but I would never do that to them. Like, I wouldn't walk into their home.
Yeah.
If I go to their home, I'm definitely knocking and calling before or whatever, not expecting them to pay for my lunch, But I guess I've just decided the peace is worth it for me to just be like, I'm going to let you just kind of violate my boundary a little bit. But I will respect yours.
For me to,
but I'll respect
that's
yours,
really helpful for me to hear.
I don't know what I'm doing either, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
I feel like so much of our parenting is we're either adaptive from what we got or we're like completely reactive to what we got.
Sure.
And my own parents, and this was unbeknownst to us as grandkids, but I did have a grandma who violated boundaries a little bit. And I didn't know this until I was an adult. And it made so much sense of how my parents parent us as adults.
Oh.
They, we moved out of the house to go to college or whatever, and they were almost like completely hands off. Not when we were at home, like, we were expected to behave and whatnot. But we would have to call them. They were not calling. And this is before cell phones and stuff too, though. I mean, whatever. Long distance charges. Remember those?
Yes.
But we would have to call them. And even still, we are the ones that have to invite them to come to like every soccer game or every kind of thing. They are not in our business. And there has been times when we've talked as adult children, a little bit of like, do they care? Mm-hmm. And so there's a tiny bit of, like I said, there's adoption and reaction. And I think my parents, according to what they got, took it kind of one way. And so now we as the adult children, we're evaluating what we're getting and kind of saying, yeah, how much do we want just a little bit more? Do we not? I mean, we're always welcome. We're always, it's like what you say, that's how they act to us. Like, come in, eat our food. I can't tell you how many times my parents have come home and I'm sitting at their kitchen table, like doing something that I probably could have done at home, but I like their house better.
I'm sure they love you. That's awesome.
I love it. I really appreciate this conversation. I've learned some things and recommitted myself to different things, but I feel like there's value in like continuing the conversation. Situations change. Children are different. I hate to give out blanket information of knowing, except to say that this idea of talking to your kids, being curious, setting those kinds of boundaries and lowering the expectations.
To zero.
I tell myself that all the time. Lower the bar. Just be awesome. Lower the bar and be awesome, Lisa. Like just
be a cheerleader.
Be a cheerleader.
Our kids, my nieces and nephews who are an adult, they just need a cheerleader
Yeah,
sometimes.
and
Their parents can be the ones that have to lay down the law, but like as another adult in their life, I can just love and hug.
Love and hug. I love it. Well, thank you for this discussion. Thanks for joining us on the Council of Moms. Obviously, the conversation always continues, but we hope that by doing the Council of Moms, by listening to this conversation, you will create your own Council of Moms to help give you the support that you need too in your everybody's individual circumstances. So thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the Council of Moms. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Find us on any of the podcast platforms. And if you have a question for the Council of Moms, please leave a comment for us on The Lisa Show on Instagram or Facebook.